All right, so folks who are watching at home, what you're seeing right now is that we're deploying a monument or marker for this vent site, but it happens to also be a monument to honor our dear friend and colleague Diane. Just a quick hello to Davin and Dahlia who are watching in. Beautiful. All right, so while we're getting this set, so we're leaving this special marker on the seafloor at this vent site to honor a dear friend and colleague of ours, Diane Adams, who passed away in June of this year. So Diane is survived by her mother Eileen, her husband Dan, and two beautiful children, Dahlia and Davin, 9 and 7, who are watching this right now. And of course she's left us much too soon. I just wanted to say a few things about Diane to let you know who she is and why we feel kind of both compelled and honored to put down this marker. Diane was an assistant professor at Rutgers University. She was an accomplished researcher, educator, and mentor. She had a deep love for hydrothermal vents. She worked on them for much of her career using deep submergence vehicles, including Alvin, which she loved, to go down to the seafloor and collect samples and do her science. She had an unbound curiosity and a fearless approach both to life and to her research. She was a consummate collaborator. She worked with a huge range of people, and she left an indelible mark on all those she encountered. And one of the reasons we're putting out this marker is because a number of people on this expedition were close collaborators and friends of hers, including Stace Beaulieu and Susan Mills, part of Lauren Molyneux's group, who was her mentor during her PhD. So Stace and Susan,
so come up and then you can tool in. Yep.
Who worked closely with her, Anna Michelle, who was her classmate during their PhD in the Hui-MIT joint program, myself, who knew her as a friend and a mentor of sorts, and many other people who are tuning in and watching, including her scientific colleagues, including Davin and Dahlia, who wrote in to ask how we knew their mom, and so hopefully I explained that and how we knew them. But of course we know them. In fact, many of us saw you from the time you were teeny tiny babies. So we thought it was particularly appropriate to leave this tribute here because of Diane's love for deep sea vents, but also because, through Diane's research, we gained a better understanding how larval dispersal and vent ecosystems worked here in the Eastern Pacific where we're working. So, it's kind of bittersweet. I think we're really happy to leave this monument, but we're all, kind of so sad to not have Diane with us and to be able to share cruises like this. So we invite those who are tuning in to send in their comments, and as much time as we have, we'll read them and share some of your experiences. So, for example, Sean Arellano wrote in, and she said she had so much fun coming up with research ideas with Diane, and she learned valuable lesson from her as well. She and I started working together because she said to me, "We are interested in so many similar things that we should work together instead of compete." And Sean's taken that spirit of collaboration to heart and hopes that everyone else in deep sea research and larval biology research continues to do that as well. Diane's cousin Joey is watching in, including Dahlia and Davin and Dan. So while we compose ourselves a little bit, we're just going to take a moment to look at this. This monument was made by folks at Hui, including Bob McCabe and DC Colassius, who helped us build this. And the silver part that you're looking at is actually some titanium left over from the last overhaul of Alvin. So we thought it was really appropriate. You can see the logo for Hui, where Diane, you know, kind of learned to be a researcher, and Rutgers, where she began to kind of ply her trade. I should also mention that there is a fund established called the Diane Adams Graduate Student Support in Marine and Coastal Sciences Endowed Fund, that if you Google Diane and Rutgers, you'll be able to find quite easily. And this is another opportunity to help continue Diane's legacy. As I mentioned, she, you know, everyone she worked with and met, you know, she touched, and she was just such a joy to work with, an exuberance for science, an exuberance for life, and a great member of our community. Dan did her undergraduate at UC Santa Barbara, and her undergrad roommates are also watching. Proud owners of styrofoam cups from Di's first dive. They refer to them as shot cups, so I don't know what liquids they were putting in those. I've been on the seafloor a lot in various vehicles, and I gotta say, this is probably one of the coolest things I've seen. So Karen and Dwayne Bygum wrote in that Diane was not only a lovely friend and scientist, she was a wonderful niece. Chris German chimed in. He has many great memories of working with Diane, even from before he started at Hui. I think, you know, when you look at what Diane has done and who she's worked with over her career, you know, even though it's not as long as some, is really incredible. So it's really nice to know that there's, you know, we're all going to have Diane in our hearts for forever, and that there is this wonderful spot on the seafloor where anyone who comes here is going to be able to remember her as well. So we just had a little change in our naming convention for this vent, and we've decided to drop the name PBS Vent and change this to Diane's Vent. So, Rennie, if you could drop that target, that would be kind of nice.
Sure thing.
And that's a great notion, and it makes me really happy. All right. As lovely as it'd be to sit here and kind of look at this absolutely stunning scene, we do have to finish up our work and get up on deck so we can get underway back to port. So I think we need to go over and pick at those temperature probes. If we have a moment, we can swing by this just before we come off bottom. I'll chime in with some of the comments that are coming in. Dennis McGillicuddy, a colleague at Hui, notes that Diane was fearless and determined in her research. Her curiosity demanded answers, and her incredible intellect sought them by whatever means necessary, be it deep-sea observations, numerical models, or satellite remote sensing. The breadth of her approach to the complex interdisciplinary problem of larval transport was truly extraordinary, and her success inspiring to those who had the blessing of knowing her. So Diane, when we talk about her being fearless, she wasn't afraid. Discipline didn't confine her. She was interested in the problems and would find any tools and collaborators necessary to answer them. Silke Severman from Rutgers Marine Sciences thanks us for placing this marker. Says it's a great monument to Diane, and
then let's close the iris slowly.
Says we all miss her desperately here at Rutgers, and she was a great colleague and mentor.